All right, we are live for another episode of Real Estate Junkies Podcast. And today, in this episode, we have an interview with Fouad Bazzi, former corporate banker turned serial entrepreneur and real estate investor. In this episode, Fouad will share with us his journey from the corporate world to owning Crescent Retreats, a luxury short term real estate rental brand, and becoming an Airbnb superhost and vacation rental by owner premium host. Uh, Tune in for this live episode, and we will in depth discuss how to take control of your time and build a successful real estate investment portfolio. Fuad, it's a pleasure finally having you on the episode. Welcome, brother.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me. I love adding value, and hopefully that the audience today gets what we want to deliver.
All right, man. Let's get right into it. Okay, can you tell us about your journey? I know we talked about this before when we first met, right? How you went from a corporate banker to a real estate entrepreneur. What sparked that change in you?
Yeah, well, starting, I was in banking for 20 years. I started right in July of 2000, and I lasted was some 19 and a half years. I lasted until mid 2019.
Wow, 2 decades.
2 decades. Well, when my wife in 2012, she started a law firm, and she would invest in the law firm and invest in the law firm and invest in the law firm and the growth of it. And I was in corporate, and I was traveling, got up to 8 to 12 weeks a year. And so when we were having our third kid in 2018, we were still very heavily reliant on my income. And we kind of had this turning point where all of a sudden the floodgates opened, and the pipeline she had been building for 6 years really began to monetize very well, way more than I was making in corporate. And so as we had our third kid, what we realized was, as nice as it is, we live in a community where my parents are close, her parents are close, siblings are all close and all that. We wanted our kids to be picked up from school every day by one of us to the 80% of the time, right? Like, we wanted them to see us. We wanted them to know that, we're very intentional about our parenting, and that's our most passionate topic. So I wanted to stop traveling so much. I leave corporate, I leave my job, started a business, Detroit Kid City. Here's the trophy for it. So Detroit Kid City, and then I got the big truck right behind me, right? And that was a coffee shop with kids play place inside. Started investing in long-term rentals, hated the long-term rental space. COVID happened, we shut down Detroit Kid City. And actually that interaction with my landlord really made me realize to never be a tenant again. It taught me to never be a tenant again. And I really needed to start owning real estate. So I began my short-term rental journey in 2021. So here we are, we're 19 properties in, 9 of them we own and operate. The others we are third-party management. We just started the third-party management about 3 or 4 months ago, which is
third-party management meaning you manage for other people.
Yeah, exactly. And so we had said no to that for so long because the goal was just ownership. But what I learned was we're very good at what we do. We have capacity in our team. We have a great team. And so, and we had people coming to us saying, hey, will you manage? So I still won't manage for just anybody. The property has to fit my brand. It has to fit our what we want to provide from an amenities perspective. And the person themselves, the owner themselves, has to be somebody I want to work with. And so those are all tenants as I pick up. But we've been about 3.5 months. We're at 9 properties or 10 properties already. And so that'll be a real nice cash flow boost to the business. And I think as we, because as we learned, everybody thinks about Airbnb and says, oh my God, that's got to be a cash cow. And it's like, look, what I've learned is in real estate, regardless of what vertical you're in, if something is a cash cow, it means you put a lot of money into it up front, right? Like, you pay down, you don't have a lot of debt. But if you're really buying and you're using bank leverage, cash may not always be guaranteed or high. It's, can we have our debt service? Can the asset pay for itself? Will it appreciate? And can we get some tax depreciation? Any cash we get is just a bonus. We obviously want it, but it's a bonus, and it's not as easy to do. So we realized the cash infusion was needed, and third-party management could hit that. We want to vertically integrate on top of that. So this is, our newest company, STR Pool Guys. So STR stands for short-term rental. So as a company I partnered up with an operating partner in Arizona, And so I've got 6 properties there, 7th one on the way. We're building as we speak. Plus, I know a lot of property managers and other owners out there that will. So if you're a general, Joe Schmo that just sees STR Pool Guys, you think that's probably our initials or something. And if you're a short-term rental host, though more specifically, you're going to find us, and we want to cater to short-term rental hosts. So I want to vertically integrate and build up and have, if I got to write a check to service any one of my properties, I want to write that check to one of my companies. That's ultimately the goal. Let's sell it on the back end.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, well, of course, you had a great reason to get out of the corporate world, right? And I feel like our audience, real estate agents, team leaders, brokers, sure, they're not in the corporate world, but we are in the daily grind, right? It's kind of like a hamster wheel that people get into and they don't have a way out. So I'm sure they can learn a lot from that journey. So what was the initial challenges you faced transitioning from that 9-to-5 lifestyle to, that entrepreneurship and real estate investing?
Yeah, routine was probably the number one challenge that I had. You used to measure your days by being into the office at 8:30 and being out of the office.
Clocking in and clocking out.
And it was, and even though we were at a very high level, you did feel that way, right? And so that was doing what I do. I get to do what I want, when I want, from where I want, how I want, with who I want, right? Like those are really important tenets to me. Like, people always think freedom is about financial freedom, and it's really about time freedom. It's really, do you control your time? And that was the life that the life by design that I wanted. And so for a long time, it really felt a little uncomfortable if it was during the day and, I was doing something with my kids rather than working, and my wife was in the office working, and it just felt wrong for me.
Yeah. Like committing a sin, right? Like free time? What? Doing that?
It was weird. And so like, the work would then, but I would do my work early in the morning. So I would like focus on I would hit the gym at 5 a.m., be done at 6, do emails from 6:30 to 8:30, spend some time with the kids, do a little more work, spend some more time with the kids, work more later. So there was this feeling of like lack of productivity. But what I realized was there wasn't a lack of productivity. It was just a lack of routine. And it was just something that I had to drive. So that was probably it. Is really more, it's probably equivalent to like, they always talk about like the inmate that leaves jail after 20 years. And it's like, he struggles to find his way in life. I was kind of like
real
caged animal, you're caged in that, because that's what a job is. It's like, this is the job. And, yeah, I got to tell you, one thing you asked was, tell me about the journey. The straw that broke it. So I was a very high performer in W2. We were very hard. My team was extremely high performing. We were always crushing our goals. And I had a leader in our group that really understood what we did, and he didn't micromanage me. He really allowed me free reign because he knew that the productivity was there. It was never going to go away. That was never going to be an issue with me, right? But still, if I needed to do something outside of corporate guidelines, I still had to ask, right? Like you have to ask permission kind of thing. So I remember I told my boss, like, hey, listen, and I manage territory. My territory is Michigan, Ohio, and California. So I'm on the clock really until 8 p.m. because my California team was always late. And so, I told him I'm going to start leaving the office at 3 so I can pick my kids up from school at 3:30, spend about an hour with them before I finish off my day with the California team. And he was totally cool with it. Like he was totally good with it, but I wasn't. I was not cool with the idea that I had to actually ask permission to leave to go pick up my kids. I just said, this is not how human beings are supposed to be, right? So, for all the things that you're going to hear me say over the next half hour about corporate, I want to say something else too. I love corporate. It's amazing. It was amazing for me and to me. It taught me so much that I would have never had otherwise. And I'm so grateful for my opportunities and the foundation that it gave me and the opportunity to leave. And if you never leave, that's okay too, right? Yeah. But I want to be absolutely clear that it afforded me a lot of opportunity. But I'm really glad now that I'm doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, and I think there is always, not everyone can be an entrepreneur. That's a reality, right? 86% of businesses fail in 5 years, right? That's a very high number, and I'm sure that 86%, if they had the right guidance, if they had the right, the roadmap to become successful, there'll probably be higher rate of success with business. But in reality, not everyone's cut out to be taking the level of risk, entrepreneurs take, right? So we do need worker bees and you have the queen bees, right? So and there is a place for everyone in the society. Otherwise, we would have all business owners and no workers, right? So I definitely believe in what you are saying, and we just gotta find what's our passion and play out our best potential, right? That God has given us, right? So now, when you talk about, I got into real estate investing, the long-term rental market, and it wasn't for me, right? And I think a lot of people, when they think about real estate investment, that's what they think of, right? They think of buying a rental property, right? So what do you mean by it wasn't for you? What were some of those challenges with long-term rentals with you?
So for how does a long-term rental work? You put a tenant in there, they got to make a payment on a certain day of the month, and it carries forward. I have too strong of a conscience that if I have people in there that can't make payment and I've got to evict and kick them out, I don't sleep. I couldn't sleep.
You're too nice.
I never, it was way too nice. So
too nice to be a landlord.
I was a bad landlord. I mean, I say it because I really was a bad landlord. I wasn't teaching them the lessons that they needed to learn. But also for me, I wasn't a profitable landlord because I just didn't have it in my heart. And I knew that was never going to change. It wasn't going to change if I hired a property management company to do it for me. It wasn't going to change no matter what. So I said, this is not for me. The short-term rental space, what's amazing is that payment gets made up front. The money is out of the way. And now, I'm a
all about service.
Yeah, it's all about hospitality, and that's my DNA. And so now I just get to have fun. Now I just get to go on a journey with you. I get to understand why you're coming and say, how can we set up your trip for success? What amenities can we help you plan, right? Like, what can we really do to help you really just have a 5-star stay, and then we get your business back again. That's the goal, right? Yeah. So that's the beauty of what we're doing now.
Amazing. And how'd you come up with the idea? It's such a unique idea, Crescent Retreats, right? What makes your brand unique? Like I could already see it's unique, but tell us about how'd you come up with that idea?
That's a good question, and there's probably a lot of answers to it. What I would tell you is the brand, like anything, the brand really doesn't matter, right? Because ultimately we want to provide a feeling for our guests, because people forget what you say, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And so the goal and the idea is to build up as many direct bookings as we can and repeat visitors as we can. It makes marketing way easier, maximizes our margins. We get to know our guests. We know who's coming back, who we're welcoming back, and all of that, right? So we want as many of those as possible. And so the brand,
without having to go through Airbnb, that's what you like, just to be clear. Okay.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. And there's a lot of really good things about going through Airbnb, but on the flip side, the more direct you have. I mean, it's all about data, and the more customers we have in our own database, the more we can upsell, the more we can do things and maximize our margins. But ultimately, Crescent Retreats is just a brand. I mean, it's just a name that says, if you really loved your stay, which we go above and beyond with amenities, if you really loved your stay, then I know you're going to look for the Crescent Retreats brand again, right? And so that's ultimately what the play is with the Crescent Retreats. It started with, we're of Muslim background in our faith, and my wife wears a hijab, and so hijab women, they love to, and by the way, not just hijabi women, a lot of women really just enjoy complete privacy in a backyard. Yeah. So what I learned is that in the Airbnb space, if you ask a host if their property is private, what a lot of times, most of the time, what privacy means there is it's private in the sense that of usage. Only you can use it. The neighbors can see you.
It's the property by itself.
Yeah, all the neighbors around you can see you, but the use is private to yourself. And so for us, we wanted to take privacy to the next level, and we wanted people to understand that our backyards, at least in Arizona, where we started, all of those backyards are completely private with heated pools. So we've catered completely to people that with a specific need, right? Now, do we only get hijabi women? No, we get all kinds of groups. We get golf groups, bachelor groups, bachelorette parties. Very minimally do we actually host, people looking for just the privacy. The amenities and the looks and the way our yards are set up we've been able to attract a little bit of everybody. So that's how it started. And so Crescent Retreats is ultimately, it's our brand manager, it's our property management company. It's almost like Airbnb. It actually owns no real estate. It's just a brand name where you can go onto our website and book a stay. The real estate is owned by individual LLCs.
Wow. So here is a marketing tagline for you. We are so private, you can walk around naked. Then you redefine privacy in Airbnb.
That would mingle well with our avatar customer. But yes, ultimately they could, for sure.
That's funny. But okay, let's get into how you got into the short-term rental space, right? Like, what steps, I guess, did you take? Like, there might be some people thinking, like, getting some ideas now, right? Like, with this conversation, like, oh yeah, so maybe I should get into it, right? What's the strategy, or what steps did you take to purchase your first vacation rental, the one in Huntington Beach that you guys purchased?
Yep. So we actually went from 0 to 3. We didn't start at 1. We started at 3. We had 3 under contract all at the same time, 1 in Huntington Beach, 2 in Scottsdale. So there are 3 KPIs that I really identify that I look for when I say I want to invest in a market. Job growth, wage growth, population growth. When you have all 3 of those things, what happens is you make really good real estate decisions, because you know that appreciation is on the hindsight, or is on the back end of those 3 KPIs, right? Like, things can change, a lot of things can change, but it's really hard to change all at once the 3 KPIs that are aligned: job growth, wage growth, population growth, right? More people, more jobs, more income in the area, more disposable income. So all of that says, find real estate in markets that have those 3 KPIs. So when you look at the Airbnb space, the short-term rental space, today you find a lot of pain, and you hear a lot of pain. And when you research the space, you feel
with the market shift,
the pain was created by people that thought, everybody's doing, it looks great on Instagram, so I want to do Airbnb as well. So I'm going to go to
just go buy a property in Detroit, set it up with
all these places. And it's like, wait a minute. The only reason people are Airbnb successful in all of these off markets right now, during COVID, was flights were not going to Bermuda, to Antigua, to the Turks and Caicos, to all these islands. Flights weren't going there. So people had to find other alternative ways to vacation. Well, now that flights are back on, guess what? Everybody's come back and reminded us we like beaches, we like mountains, and we like camping. These are the 3 reasons that people travel, and they've told us this for decades. So first, those 3 KPIs I mentioned, that aligns us to a market. Now, when we get into that market, we say, okay, how is the short-term rental data in that market? But if those first 3 KPIs don't check out, I don't want to buy real estate in those markets. So Huntington Beach was a personal need. My daughter's doctor was out there, so we had to be there every 6 weeks. And so that was a personal need. We used it while we needed it. We no longer need to see that doctor, or she had nut allergies. She's completely over that allergy. So we're no longer in that program. And simultaneously, as we finished that program, Huntington Beach changed their ordinances, so we could no longer short-term rent that. So we actually sold that property. And because we followed those 3 KPIs and we were a 6-minute walk to the beach, guess what happened in a year and a half?
Yeah. Okay. Price went up.
Appreciation, right? And those are the 3 things that happened. So in a year and a half, we grossed about $120,000 in that property, and then we sold it at about a $200,000 gain.
Wow!
And so that was a really nice win. And then in Scottsdale, we haven't sold anything. We've kept everything there. But to your point, how did we actually get in and launch? We used investor debt. Investor debt is like DSCR loans, debt service coverage ratio loans. Those are very specific to investors. They make getting mortgages easier. They're a little bit more expensive than your standard. The
guidelines are lower.
The guidelines are lower. Well, and they're not looking at your financials. You're not having to submit all kinds of financials. You have to personally guarantee, but all they care about at this point is the deal itself, the real estate coverage, and then the debt service. That's what they care about with these. And then we raise. I buy without using any money. Now on our first 3, I actually did use money. All 3 of those deals, I used a little bit of our own money. So The Huntington Beach one we bought without a partner. The two in Scottsdale that we bought first off, we bought with family members. We were all 50% investors. And then from a money perspective, and then moving forward, you know, what I learned was I paid my coach to go spend a day with him. And he said something that resonated to me. He said, in real estate, it's really easy to run out of your own money, but you can never run out of other people's money. And when he said that, because I was a banker, it really resonated like, oh, fully leverage. I got it, right? So we started just building relationships with investors all over the country. Now I raise capital. I can bring in capital as equity, or I can bring it in as debt, and that fulfills the down payment and the upfront money on the deal. So I actually don't have any money in any of our deals anymore after our first three. And so, yeah, we're at 9 properties now. We're at currently I'd have to look, but it's about a $17 million portfolio. And the goal is to have it at 100 million in about 4 years.
Wow. That's aggressive. Now, when you say investors, you look for investors and you build relationship with investors. These are just regular people, or these are accredited investors? Like, what are you looking for?
Both. So we don't mind non-accredited, but I do prefer accredited investors. I prefer them mainly because they understand investing a little bit better than you have to do a lot of hand holding. So, you know, my passion and my goal is to help as many people get out of W-2 as I possibly can. But the challenge with that also sometimes is that they're a little bit more needy. They're a little bit more
scared.
Yeah, they're green, right? They're not vetted. So there's a fine line. I think it's still okay. We have one deal with a non-accredited investor, and there's certainly some hand-holding that goes on with that one, but it's okay. And it's a good way for me to learn how to vet my investors moving forward. And it's a good way for me to understand how to communicate with accredited and non-accredited investors differently.
Yeah, that's nice. And what's your advice to, now that you're on this mission to get people out of W-2, right? What's your advice? You know, there is a lot of people out there that are just tired of their corporate jobs, right? Whether they have the skill set to get out or not, right? They're just, they're looking for a way out. So what's your advice to someone looking to escape the corporate hamster wheel to start investing in real estate?
Yeah, I would say that the biggest hurdle or challenge that I hear from people is, well, there's no way that I can afford to leave. And it's like, that's okay. You don't have to leave today. When we leave, I mean, is there a 5-year plan we can get you on? Is there a 10-year plan we can get you on? Can we start to really build out your vision and take small baby steps towards it so that you can really clearly see it? So if you're in your 30s, 40s, even 50 years old, and we can say, hey, I can get you to retire at 55 instead of at 62. Let's build that plan. Let's really save and compress time for you so that you don't have to wait till you're 62 to finally enjoy your time freedom, right? And there's a plan for that. There are baby steps. And when I tell you we want to build a $100 million portfolio in 4 years, if I told you that I wanted to get in the coffee mug industry, it's a really competitive industry, and it's going to take a lot of work and maybe never achievable to get to $100 million, right? But in real estate, it's extremely achievable when you understand all of the sources of leverage that you have around you, all of the ways that you can bring in other people's money. And when you really start to dive deep and put a plan in place, you realize, oh, I can leave my job. It's going to take a few years, but I can do it. And now I just have to start working towards it. I would advise people to really consider what they're doing with their 401k investing and educate themselves on self-directed IRAs instead.
Yeah, there's money there.
Yeah, I mean, these are the golden handcuffs, right? If you keep putting money in your 401k, we'll match it. Well, guess what? If you put that money in a self-directed IRA, it'll grow way faster, because in a self-directed IRA, you can use that money in real estate, and in real estate, you're going to grow way faster than you are in the
bonds and EFTs.
Bottom line. And I didn't know that until about 2 years ago. I wish I would have known that. So I give that advice. I'm like the fat personal trainer, right? Like I give that advice. Like, I wish I would have known that 20 years ago. I wouldn't even have a 401k. But now that I've left corporate, I've taken all of my 401k, I've rolled it over into a self-directed IRA. And that self-directed IRA only invests in real estate now.
Yeah. And I believe it comes down to your a dream and your vision, right? If you could look at your corporate job and say, this is my bread and butter, right? And tolerate it, right, your whole life, and then eventually retire, and that amounts to nothing. We know what 401ks, by the time most of this generation will retire, I say will turn into 101k.
Yeah.
It's not going to stay 401k anymore.
Funny, true.
Especially with the whole project 2025 that's coming about. But I think it comes down to like, hey, how committed are you to that retirement that you're looking to build for yourself, right? I mean, my sister with probably less than $100,000 in salary is on her path to quit if she wants to, because she has long-term rental properties, right? And it's because she knew that she has two kids and they're growing up, and she will never be able to like forever. I mean, she worked for the Rocket for over a decade now, and she's been in that corporate ladder, right? And she sees that, hey, I won't be able to compete in that corporate ladder forever because I have a life. I have to give time to my kids, right? Mm-hmm. And so she started smart, right? She started investing in properties, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now she's at, I don't know, probably at 5 properties, but she has a way out. Sure, she still works, but she has a way out. She could see the light at the end of the tunnel, how it's possible. Yeah. Now, going into your business, right? What you are doing in the short-term rental, people that are probably, some of our audience are already in it. How do you ensure that top tier service amenities that you provide? Like, how do you come up with that? How do you know what your audience wants, what your guests want, and how does that impact, their experience in your business?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest thing I can say is success leaves clues. And so there's a fine line between trying to innovate and just copycatting, right? I mean, how did Burger King build an empire? They just copycatted. I mean, that's all they did, is they copycatted McDonald's. And so there are certain things that you can start with the baseline. Just go research the market that you're going to invest in. Go to Airbnb and act like a guest and just peruse it and see who are on the top 3 pages every single time and what properties are here. And then do the same on VRBO, do the same on booking.com. And
funnel hack, right? Copycat meaning funnel hacking.
That's it. Just go understand what is the competition doing. Now, that's the baseline. That's the baseline.
Yeah.
You do what your competition is doing. And by your competition, it means what area, which ballpark do you want to play in? Do you want to play in that 5-star ballpark? Do you want to play in that 3-star ballpark? And there's no right and wrong answers. There are different answers for both.
There's market for both. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And so you just have to understand what is it, but you're certainly not going to go to, to Broken Bow, Oklahoma, for instance. I always pick on Broken Bow, Oklahoma, because I just think it's hilarious what happened there in COVID. But you're not going to go to Broken Bow, Oklahoma and build like a San Diego style beachfront home. That's just not going to work. You're going to need a cabin. You're going to it just understand what your market is doing and don't overspend. Do the right things, and then just add those extra 1 or 2 amenities. So it's just research. Honestly, I mean, it's just research.
Mm-hmm. I think what you said there is a key, is that, hey, yes, you want to do what your competitor is doing, but that's just the baseline. And I teach that inside of our academy, is that don't just copy another agent just because they're doing certain type of marketing. You will end up just looking like them, right? Yes, implement what's working for them. If they're marketing in YouTube, market in YouTube, but you gotta still bring your sauce into it, right? You could funnel hack someone else, but if you're just copy of someone else, you're just making noise in the marketplace and not standing apart, right?
Yep. Yeah, authenticity is the key, without question, because it's authenticity in service and who you are and what you provide. What's sustainable? What are you really going to constantly do? And so, I mean, when I say like research a market too, like understanding, like in Arizona, if you're going to buy a short-term rental but you don't have a swimming pool, don't wonder why your occupancy is lower than everybody else.
Because that's what people are looking for.
Yeah. It's way too hot sometimes. You have to have the pool. So don't wonder why you can't crack the code there, right? Like, so there are baseline, and that's what I mean is get baseline. So the pool is one thing, but then it's like, what about adding a heater to that pool? What about having a jacuzzi on the side? What about having a bocce ball court? What about a putting green? What about having a game room instead of a garage? People in short-term rentals don't park in garages, right? So it's wasted space. Do not leave the garage open. Turn it into a game room. So now if you're somebody that wants arcades, right? Like, so it's just maximizing your space. And how do I just make sure that they're going to compare a couple of properties. Nobody just lands on one property and says, boom, that's the one. They look at a couple and they start comparing them. What's here, what's there. So it's just that one differentiator sometimes that you have to have.
That's true.
That's
Yeah.
what we look.
Yeah. When was this? About 4 or 5 months ago with my family, with my sisters, their family, my parents, we went and stayed at an Airbnb in Florida. And we did the same thing. We were comparing and like, oh, this one has a gaming room. So all the kids can be like stuck there. Like we will just put them there and we can all spend time together, right? So what you are saying, and so market research is huge. Now, what's the significance for people that are already maybe in the short-term rental space or looking to get into short-term rental space when you say Airbnb Superhost or VRBO Premier Host, right? What's the significance there and how can you achieve that status?
Yeah, so the significance is really simple. You're going to show up higher in their algorithms. You're going to show up closer to page one. They do marketing email campaigns to people that they know based on all the AI and all the data they have. They know who to email that says this person is looking for a trip here. So they'll blast out and say, hey,
they'll push you out.
Things you can look at here. And if you're a super host, that will happen. You'll be on those emails. And so, it's an algorithm booster, bottom line, and it really helps. And you get it through consistency. So I think an Airbnb, I'm going to probably miss one or two categories, but you have to have less than a 1% cancellation rate. And by cancellation, it's not the guest canceling. If a guest cancels, you have to be the one to cancel, right? So as long as you don't cancel on a guest, less than 1%, you have to have at least X amount of stays or nights booked. You have to have 4.8 or higher rating. And what's the last one? There's one more that I'm missing. But these are criteria. So it's just ultimately, it just shows
exceptional service. Yeah.
Consistency. Yeah, that's it. They want to know that you are somebody that is in there and you're playing full out to be a great host, and you're not just looking to, trick people into booking your property and then it looks different than when they really show up. So those are all really important factors.
Yeah, sounds like they want to see you actually doing it and not just a side hustle, right? Like,
no doubt. And it's not a side hustle. By the way, this is the least passive side of real estate. So if you're not interested in being in the hospitality space, then you either steer very clear of the Airbnb space and short-term rental space, or you invest in somebody. Like myself, that takes investors and that partners with people, right? But it doesn't have to be me; it could be anybody. But of course, me.
So tell us what it's like. Obviously, if someone's interested, they can maybe reach out to you, talk to you more private. But what it's like to invest in you, right, or with you?
Well, the first thing I always do is I say, "What's your goals?" I mean, those are the most important things because we have multiple investors on multiple deals, and we can structure investments multiple ways. So somebody may just say, look, I only want to lend you my money for 2 years and I want a 10% return. Got it. Cool. We'll bring you in as debt. We can do whatever we want with that money as long as, we sign a promissory note, personal guarantee. So that's the way a debt agreement works. Yeah. Investment agreements can work multiple ways. We can structure it so that we're all 50-50 going down on the ownership of the asset, the cash on cash return, the tax benefits, all that stuff, right? Some people, like we have one investor that he makes $35 million a year. So he looked me straight in the eyes. He said, listen, I don't need money from you. I need tax benefits. I need to own real estate. I need cost segregation studies and big tax benefits year one. Can you help me with that? Heck yeah. So we structured the deal so that we're 50-50 owners of the asset. He gets 100% of the cost segregation study. I get 100% of the cash on cash return. And then if we ever sell that property, we split everything 50-50, right? So, I mean, there are multiple ways and structures. The ultimate thing is I start with, what are your goals? Because if you have goals that I can't help you achieve, I'm going to tell you straight up, I can't do it because I don't want. I don't want to have to deal with that, right? I want to know that I can actually help you hit your goals. If I can, that's amazing, and if I can't, that's that's where I say, well, look, I can't help you meet those goals, but here's how you can do it. And I do coach, I do consult. You can basically buy it in a box, all of the resources that we have, all of them that we've created, so that we've made our process so foolproof now that help multiple people buy and get into the short-term rental space now in that program, because
do it for themselves, right? So they learn from you. Okay.
Yep. So they can come in. I'll launch their first one with them. I will help them find a property. I will help them launch the property. They have all of our resources, our checklists, everything that they need to do, our inventory list, and how we, all the things that we do. It doesn't mean they have to do it exactly that way. They may then put their own spices and flavors on it. Yeah. But we have all of our.
But it's a proven model, right?
No,
And that's what it's about. If you want to be successful at something, take a proven model, implement that, then be creative with it, right?
exactly
Yeah.
right.
So give us the sauce on how you manage and grow relationship with investors. You raised over $2 million to date. I don't know. There's probably old stats, right? I found online, but like, tell us how do you get money? Like, that's what most people probably wondering. Like, hey, if I want to use someone else's money, how do I do it?
So a couple ways. One is we obviously brand via social media. I put out a lot of free content. I do a lot of that. That's to build brand reputation, recognition, authority, all that, right? Yeah, exactly. KLT, know, like, and trust. Yeah. But relationships are everything. I mean, we're always in the people business. And so I've started masterminding quite a bit. I'm an addict to masterminds. I love being in masterminds. So I tend to obviously to learn and get a bunch of value out of them from an education perspective. But just as importantly, when you know you're in the right mastermind, it's because of the cohort of individuals that you're in there with, other investors just like yourself, people that are growth minded, driven, and wanting to invest in other deals. So in masterminds, you have, I would like to say you have two kinds of people. You have people with too much money, not enough deals, or people with too many deals, not enough money. And when you put those two people in the room together, magic happens. And so, like-mindedness attracts. And so we've been very successful raising capital within the masterminds that we're in.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's how you got on this podcast, right? From the event.
100%.
And we leverage a lot of that. Like, every time I'm at an event, I look around the room and I say, who can I help? And who can I get help from, right? And you are one of those people like, oh, I could get him on my podcast and build some authority around real estate investors, right? Like, you got some people that you have in your audience. But now tell us a little bit of, like, I'm sure there's a ton of people that are so much noise that are teaching short-term rental, right? Like, oh, you want 100% passive. And obviously from you, we just learned it's not a passive business, right? What are the key elements of building a successful, short-term rental brand, right? And how do you, when you do mentor people, right, teaching you on your methods, how do you mentor them through the Launchpad, Airbnb Launchpad?
Yep. So, let me break that. Ask the question one more time so I can break it into two parts.
So what are the key elements of building a successful a hosting brand, right? Short-term rental brand. Yep. And when in your program, how do you mentor people through the Airbnb Launchpad?
Yeah. So how we mentor them is it's a 90-day program. In that 90 days, we do first day one, we're together for 8 hours in person. That's mandatory. We sit with a whiteboard. We're going to go super deep. We're going to get into your goals, into your life. We're going to.
This is one-on-one.
Yep, one-on-one.
Wow.
We're starting with the end in mind, and we're going to reverse engineer the hell out of that. Too often, people don't start with the end in mind. And so they just take a step thinking this is what they want, hoping this is what they want, wondering if this is what they want. And then they're wondering why it's not working and why it's not driving. And it's because you didn't start with what you really want, right? And when you don't start with that, it's going to lead to burnout. It's going to lead to investments that you hate and regret and all this stuff. And you're going to stop. So we're going to, in those 8 hours, the first hour to 2 hours is just intro. It's like, let's start with the end in mind. Let's get to the end. Let's rip your life apart and really figure out what that life by design looks like for you. Reverse engineer it, and then we really start to understand what markets we want to be looking at, how you want to be hosting, and what it is. And then we build your own brand. And then every other week for the 90 days, we're together on a Zoom for 1 hour. And then at the very end of the program, we do another 4-hour session. I like it to be in person. That one does not have to be in person, though. That one could be by Zoom, but it's preferable that it's in person, because what we're going to do at that point is we're going to say, okay, it's been 90 days. What do we love? What do we hate? Because we got to take what we hate and we got to say, okay, but it still has to get done. So how do we do it? How do we pivot the what you're doing so that it still gets done? And we just kind of put the final bow on it.
Yeah.
Luckily, I love to say luckily, you'd almost think this is not something I should say, but luckily nobody has needed me after 90 days. And I say that because if you do, then I'm not doing my job.
Yeah. I haven't taught you something. Something's missing there, right?
100%, right? Like any coach that says you need me longer than 90 days, they're milking you.
They're not getting results. They're not getting results. They're upselling.
Let the draw out so that you can pay them for longer. So for me, it's 90 days. Now, I've done longer than 90-day engagements, but it was beyond just the short-term rental scope, right? There was a lot of mindset that goes into that. There's been all kinds of things that I've mentored and coached on it. Consulting is in my DNA from my corporate world. So I have been engaged longer, but the short-term rental itself, 90 days is plenty. And so it will help you build that brand, will help you build the authority, give you all the tips and the strategies that I use on social media and how we've been able to, outsource what we, 95% of what we do, I'm not involved in anymore. All of our guest communication, that's not me. We have several automated messages. My team is handling the rest of it. We use all of our, I give all the tech stack and all the different options. Certainly don't have to use exactly the tech stack that I have. There's plenty of other options on alternatives out there, but I have a very specific tech stack that I use. I'm very against too much integration, and I get very into that but all the things that I've been able to figure out about how you keep yourself very high in the algorithm, those are all things that I share with my group as we go.
Wow. And it's interesting you say that you start from the end in mind and you reverse engineer. And a lot of times I'm on consulting calls, like 30 to 40 of them a week. And it's always like, oh, if I could just fix this problem in my business, I'm going to get to my goal, right? Like if I could just generate more leads, if I could generate more appointments, if I could just get more hot buyers and sellers, right? That's the problems that people come to us with. But whenever all these consultation calls, my first thing is what's the end, right? And a lot of them just get thrown off by that, or a lot of them are irritated. Like, what do you mean the end? I want this to be solved. This is what I want. And whenever I do that, like through these calls and reverse engineer, a lot of them just get more clarity than they have, been in business for 20 years, right? Yep. And they realize that whatever they came to me for is not what they need, and so it's something else. It's their problem, right? So they I have seen it over and over again. When you reverse engineer your goals, it gives you more clarity on how to get there. Versus if you're like, to me, it's like playing lottery. If you're like trying to figure it out as you go, right? Sure. It's like you're literally playing lottery with your future. Is that maybe, hopefully I'll get there, right? And that's what in most of our mind gets to, like the impossibility, right, syndrome, where it's like, okay, whatever I want, most likely it's not possible, but I'll just try to get to as close as possible. So we just try all these different things and distract ourselves from the true path, right? So now I don't know how much time you have, but I could talk forever, right? With real estate when it comes to it, right? So what is you mentioned routine was one of your biggest struggles, right? So give us what's your typical day in your life as a real estate investor and entrepreneur looks like from the corporate world to now. What's the difference?
So I'm up at 5 o'clock. I hit the gym. I'm done by 6. From 6 till about 8 to 8:30, I'm just hammering out emails, just kind of getting caught up, setting my schedule for the day. What are my must do's today, and all that kind of stuff. And then I do them, but in the summertime it ebbs and flows. In the summertime, my kids are home, so I do my best to from 9 till about noon. I'm really just messing with my kids, doing what I can. From noon till about 4, I lock back in. I give my kids a break, let them play, let them jump in the pool, do whatever they need to do, and I lock back in, just kind of working on whatever I need to work on. Looking for more, whether it's looking for more deals or raising more capital, optimizing our listings, all that kind of stuff. And then later in the day, it's just kid time again, But it ebbs and flows. I mean, that's kind of like my baseline day, but every day could change a little bit as we
whatever comes your way, you tackle. Yeah. That's amazing. So you're basically saying you can do whatever you want. You still have to have a structure, and you still have to discipline yourself to get things done when they need to be done.
Yeah. Work doesn't do itself. Yeah. Work doesn't do itself, right? So you still got to be willing to work hard. You still got to be willing to do it all. Does it have to be 8 hours a day? I think that's inflated, right? Like even in corporate America, the studies are people are in office for 8 hours, but their actual productivity is like 3.5 hours a day.
Yeah, it's less. I would say even less for a lot of people, less than 3 hours, right?
It's wild. It's so wild. And so, as long as you're super productive, super efficient, you can still get a full day's worth of work done.
In 4 hours,
validated amount of time, 100%.
I mean, that's what I do in the morning. I wake up, I get my work, the things that needs to happen in my business, and rest of the day, I'm just consulting people. Like 100%. One call after another. I'm getting on a call in 10 minutes and call after that and call after that. There's breaks in between. I go upstairs, have lunch with my kids, and it's amazing. But what would you say your long-term vision is for your business right now and your portfolio?
So within 3 to 5 years, I'm building something to sell. I mean, there's no doubt about it. That is the goal.
Okay.
Build it up, sell it. I mean, every part of it, the property management, the pool company, if we have a decorations company, concierge service, all of that, build it all up, package it up and sell it at a multiple to EBITDA. And if we don't, then we are going to be running a business way bigger than we would have ever dreamed of had we not built it to sell. So the goal is build to sell, have 100 million.
So when would you know it's ready to sell? Like, is there a margin you're looking for?
I don't really, that's a good goal. That's a good idea. And I should have a goal to that, but no, I don't really have a number, because I truly don't, until I get to my $100 million across 50 homes maximum, I don't know, that'll tell me like where we are in the business, what our revenue is, but I certainly won't sell before that. I mean, that.
Oh, okay. So that is the threshold, and maybe after that you will determine like, is this profitable enough to sell, and what's the margin and all of that. That's amazing. Yeah.
I can tell you within the next 24 months, we'll have a boutique hotel. I don't know where, I don't know how, I don't know what, but we will have one within the next 24 months. That absolutely will happen. I have all the investors lined up and ready to go on that. It's a great way to scale. As you know, forced appreciation in the commercial properties are huge. But I can tell you everything that I ever do in real estate will be residentially driven. So whether it's a single family home, a multifamily, or a hotel, anything that goes around putting a roof over people's head, because artificial intelligence can change a lot. We're watching tens of thousands of people lose their job all over the country and the world. We don't know what really will happen, but what we know for sure is you cannot replace in human beings the number one desire is to have a roof over their head. So for me, the safest play in real estate is always going to be something residentially driven.
You know what? Something that I think I told you this before, something that I really, really want to do, and I after this year, I'm going to try to find time to do it, is a commercial residential mixed use place, right? So downstairs you got your, like WeWork type of environment, right? Like mix use, with your cafeteria, your coffee shop, your grocery store, all in downstairs, and upstairs like loft style residential spaces. I believe that's the future of lifestyle for people, especially with the new generation that are coming up. That's how they want to live. They want everything in one place.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah. So leave us with your final tips. What do you have for, let's just say, people in real estate space, real estate agents, team leaders, brokers, who are looking to break free from their hamster wheel lifestyle, right? And that 9 to 5, or even the people in the corporate world. I have so many friends in the corporate world that are tired. We help them invest in long-term rentals, right? That's our cash cow, right? All of our corporate friends, hey, invest in real estate. What's your final tip on achieving financial freedom through real estate investment?
Here's a couple. So done is better than perfect. So the longer you wait for perfection, the longer you're just going to wait, right? Yeah. So if you wait 8 years to find a home run, well, you probably could have hit about 18 singles in the meantime. So done is better than perfect. Go make some flipping mistakes, and just fall forward. Mistakes are just learning lessons and stumbling blocks, right? And so that is really important. Stop waiting on a plan. Stop, just go. Talk to people. If you're on W-2 and you're trying to figure out how the heck do I get out, go to my Instagram, Fouad_Airbnb, FOUAD_Airbnb. Click the link in my bio, schedule 15 minutes with me, and I'll see if I can help you. And if I can't help you, I'll give you some tips, and I'll help you just kind of really start to think about how you can get the heck out. And if you're an agent, one of the things I want to tell you is, I'm going to say this. Well, no, I'm not. I'm not going to filter myself. I'm going to be.
Yeah, say it. Yeah.
Right. So agents are extremely mediocre. 99% of real estate agents are extremely mediocre. And the reason for it is there's a very low barrier
to entry. Yeah.
Right? And so differentiating yourself and setting yourself up for success is actually an extremely easy thing to do. Just frickin' do what you said you would do, and work hard and bust your butt. Answer the phone. If you don't answer the phone, somebody else will. Set your day on fire. Use social media. It is free. It is like like just go and differentiate yourself. Don't sit around. It is not COVID anymore where houses are selling themselves. Go, you get open houses, be proactive, and just do what you say you will do. And you'll set yourself apart. So hopefully that's some a little bit of
definitely. Some of the stuff. Yeah, some of the stuff we talk about is just like, hey, if you're broke, stop thinking about financial freedom. You need capital. You need to solve your capital problem, right? You don't have money. What are you talking about financial freedom, right? Like, go do the work and make the money, right? And what I got out of this whole session, to me, is like, you're gonna do the work anyway. You're either gonna do the work for someone else or you're gonna do the work for yourself, right? So whether you're trying to get out of your 9 to 5 or not, you're gonna do the work. Okay, so I would rather work 150, 200% for myself than 1% for someone else. Okay, I don't know. I would have to be mentally disable and for me to fall for that, right? Ever again, right? Like, so anyway, thanks, man. There you guys have it. How to escape your 9 to 5 with real estate. And Fouad, appreciate you. Looking forward to collaborate with you more in the future. And thanks for all the value you bring, and thanks for doing what you do, guys. If you want some insight from him, follow him on socials. He's all over the place. It wasn't very hard for me to find your bio, right? so it's very easy to find. So just do a Google search, you'll find him. Reach out to him if you need some from him.
Look forward to it. Thank you so much for allowing me to add value.
All right, bro. All right, take care. All right, guys. Until next time.